When it comes to Star Wars, there's very little about the franchise not to like. Unless you read internet comments, in which case every single thing done with the franchise since 1980 is the worst thing that ever happened. Here's a secret though, some people actually like some of that stuff. They're simply too afraid to say so. Here's a look at some of the biggest Star Wars guilty pleasures people just won't admit to. The Ewoks. Hating on Ewoks has been an unofficial national pastime for over 3 decades now. But the unsung heroes of Return of the Jedi have a couple of things going for them. Firstly, while some people complain about the Ewoks' ability to stand up to the Empire so successfully, it's actually perfectly plausible. In fact, George Lucas said that the Ewoks were inspired by the Viet Cong, who were similarly out-teched, outnumbered, and outgunned, but successfully waged war against the French, American, and South Vietnamese forces for decades. And secondly, despite revisionist history to the contrary, the Ewoks were actually really popular with kids when Return of the Jedi came out, selling untold toys and comic books, and spinning off a series of successful made-for-TV films as well. Yub nub, indeed.
The Ewoks saved the day!
Yay!
It's a galaxy of fun.
The many homages of The Force Awakens. It's the highest-grossing movie in US history, but some hardcore fans had a major complaint about 2015's The Force Awakens, saying it copied the original 1977 Star Wars A New Hope a little too closely. Well, duh. That's exactly why it was so successful, and why people loved it so much. Just as the tale of a mystically endowed orphan from a desert planet who helps a band of freedom fighters destroy the weapons of a fascist regime resonated with fans 4 decades ago, those same themes resonate with a whole new generation today. And admit it, it was kinda cool to experience that all again through a fresh set of eyes. Because what really awoke wasn't the Force, but a new love of Star Wars. How can that be bad? Ahsoka. When the animated series Clone Wars retroactively gave Anakin an annoying Padawan of his own named Ahsoka Tano, fans were initially irritated at this unwanted addition to canon.
A youngling?
And who are you supposed to be?
Over time, though, Ahsoka went from being a guilty pleasure to a fan favorite, as her arc took her on a surprisingly deep journey, turning her into one of the most complex characters in Star Wars. By the time she appeared as a morally ambiguous gray Jedi in Star Wars Rebels, even the biggest haters had grudgingly come around. So there's still hope for you yet, Jar Jar. The special edition changes. Okay, we all agree that Han shot first, and changing that scene was just especially dumb. But some of the tweaks Lucas made in the special edition actually made sense. Besides correcting minor visual flaws, the special edition finally gave us the best views from Bespin, actually built up suspense for Luke's showdown with the Rancor, and blended some of the mildly off-putting glitches out of the film. Even the celebrations from around the galaxy were pretty dang cool. Don't get us wrong, there are still plenty of reasons to grumble about the special edition. But at least they gave us Biggs back, and that's a fair trade for skinny Jabba, right? The prequels. Yes, the prequels ruined your childhood. We're sorry. But there are actually fans who secretly enjoy the prequels, and it turns out there are some solid reasons for giving these movies a second look. Firstly, despite what you remember, the CGI was actually pretty good for the time. Many fans give the prequels flack for being so dependent on effects, but in retrospect, those effects aren't so bad. And they helped pave the way for technological advances that have given us even better effects today. And then there's the much-maligned pod race. Sure, Anakin is super annoying, and child star Jake Lloyd seems to have less acting range than Chucky.
Let me explain something to you. I am a vintage, mass-marketed children's toy from the 80s.
But look past that, and you're actually left with a sequence that's pretty darn awesome, rivaling anything from the Fast and Furious franchise. Finally, though some fans still can't get past the fact that Padme dies because she simply loses the will to live, dying of a broken heart is a classic literary trope, and it's one that even has some basis in reality, as broken heart syndrome is a real medical condition. After all she went through, including the ultimate betrayal, can you blame her for having a broken heart? Just like Romeo and Juliet, it's a fittingly tragic end to a tragic romance, which is why for some fans, the Padme-Anakin relationship is a true guilty pleasure, whether they admit it publicly or not. Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.